You've read the rules, you've created your strategies, you've put in the time, you've done the math. Now it's time to show us what you've got. Welcome to this week's episode of FMA Plus.
Welcome back for week 6 of FMA Plus. Tonight we've got 4 teams featured for you, starting with Team 2458 Team Chaos from Gladstone, New Jersey, Team 4575 The Tin Mints from Prospect Park, Pennsylvania, Team 25 Raider Robotics from North Brunswick, New Jersey, and Team 8117 the Robo Rovers, a rookie from Easton, Pennsylvania.
All right, so first up on the list is Team 2458 Team Chaos out of Gladstone, New Jersey. All right, so we're here with Team 2458 Team Chaos. I have student representatives Dylan, Juliet, Sarah, and their mentor Haley. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to you guys. Let's learn a little bit more about Team Chaos.
Hi, I'm Dylan. I'm a junior, and I've been on Team Chaos for 4 years now.
Hi, I am Sarah, and I'm a junior, and this is my first year on Team Chaos.
Hi, I'm Juliet, and I was also new to the team this year.
That's really cool. So much new team representation. So Juliet, why don't you kick us off and tell us just a little bit, an overview about the robot this year?
So our robot this year was named Jared, and he weighed about 87 pounds. It was a tank drive that picked up power cells from the ground and shooted for the inner port. It had a magazine that pulled the power cells up to the shooter, and it also had a 3-stage climb.
Nice. So just out of curiosity, where did the name Jared come from?
I don't think we really had a reason. I just think that it kind of happened.
It just fit, right? Yeah, its name was Jared. I get it. That's cool.
Exactly.
All right, so let's talk a little bit more granularly about Jared. So Sarah, maybe you could tell us a little bit about Jared's chassis.
Yeah, so Jared had a chassis with a 6-wheel tank drive. We had a really long discussion about how we wanted to do this because we figured in this game there would be a little bit of defense. And so we decided we wanted to use something that would stay sturdy if any sort of robot tried to push against us. So we thought a 6-wheel tank worked really well, and it also worked to go through the rendezvous point in the middle because it had bumps there. And we use Andy Mark set to do this. And in future years, we really would like to use our own kind of chassis. So that's a goal for next season.
Sure. It's always nice to see what teams are comfortable with in season and what they want to try in the off season. So that's pretty neat. So let's keep moving through the robot mechanisms. Juliet, why don't we talk about what you guys call the magazine?
So for the magazine, which was what we held the balls in before we shot them through the shooter for the inner port, we built 2 columns of aluminum box section with bearings spaced evenly from bottom to top. Between each column sat churros, which rode in the bearings, which were powered by sim motors at a 1-to-1 ratio. On each axle was a 3D printed polycarbonate spool. The spools were cylindrical and split into 2 sections. Each section was crowned in the center, and in the middle there was a separation from the other side so that the exercise bands would not move. We actually played with this for a while because we didn't know which exercise band we would want to use, if we wanted to use small ones or a large one or thin or thick ones. And for a while, we also played with the size of the 3D printed spools because we didn't want the band to be slipping and change the compression on the power cells. So after a while, we found that this was the best way. So we had these 3D printed spools that had the double crowns that would be split and have 2 exercise bands. And we would have 4 of them split into 2 stages. So 2 stages would have 2 exercise band attached. And in the magazine, we could hold 3 power cells at once. And we had a Lexan hood leading up to the shooter so that the power cells could have constant compression leading up and the drivers remained in control of each power cell at all times.
Yeah, it sounds like your magazine system keeps things nice and tight and organized, right? Which I think is key in this game. It's going to be a big contributing factor to quick cycle times if you don't have to worry about power cells popcorning around on your robot. So that makes a lot of sense. Dylan, I'm curious to know how Jared's scoring points. I also love the theme of referring to him as Jared, as though he's,
Like
the
Jared
guy who
doesn't
lives
want
down the
that.
hall from me
Yeah.
or something. Yeah. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about Jared's shooter.
Oh, absolutely. And yes, we've spent a lot of time with Jared, so it's nice to call him something. For our shooter mechanism, we created a rectangular frame out of aluminum box section, and on that we mounted two Neo motors, and then each of those motors drove a separate axle via belts, which were also at a 1-to-1 ratio. And then we chose the Brown compliant wheels from AndyMark to grip and fire the power cells with roughly 1 inch-ish of compression on the power cells. And because we opted not to use flywheels, our motors require a brief pause in between shots. We needed to reach max speed to get the shots at the same arc every time. After a few weeks of testing, we were pleasantly surprised by the accuracy and repeatability we achieved from our shooter. We were able to retain a decent level of accuracy from behind the control panel, which was our original place to shoot from.
Nice. I think this is such a creative set of builds, and I like that at least you guys knew, okay, no flywheel, we need that pause between shots. So nice job, Jared. But one of the things that I know teams can be sort of hit or miss, right? Teams either decided to do this or decided to write it off completely, was a control panel. So Juliet, what did you guys do for the control panel mechanism?
So our first prototype for the control panel consisted of powered compliant wheels on a lever arm. The arm would lay on the control panel and rotate the color wheel using a color sensor for positioning and an encoder for rotation control. For our second prototype, in an attempt to simplify the design, we statically mounted the wheel and sensor to the chassis. Team 303 was generous enough to offer time on their practice field where we were able to observe the interaction between our shooter wheels and the control panel. And interestingly enough, our bottom shooter wheels are actually at the same height as the control panel. And we decided that using those wheels were more practical for the ease and simplicity, just because it took up less space.
Sweet. So we've learned a little bit about how Jared is playing the primary objectives in the game. I'm curious to know what he decides to do or how he decides to do it when it comes to the end game. Can you talk a little bit about the climb, Sarah?
Yeah, so for our robot, Jared had a 3-stage lift with a winch. So basically how this worked was the lift would bring the hook at the top of it up to the bar in the generator switch, and it would hook onto the bar, and then when the hook attached, the lift would come down, and then the hook was attached to a separate motor by paracord, and when that motor reeled in, the robot would go up. So it had 2 parts to it. And on that lift that we had that brought the hook up, there was a pulley system with pulleys on each end of the stages of the lift. Basically, we just had paracord go through that, and then a motor would pull it, and it would go up. And we had a really light robot, so we used paracord for the winch for this reason, because we didn't really need something too strong that was hard to wrap around a spool. So yeah.
I think it's really interesting. You guys said right from the beginning that this was a really light robot, and so I think obviously with climbing, the heavier something is, the bigger challenge is to mechanically pull it up. So I like that you guys could sort of go for something different because you had that lighter weight robot. That's really, there's so many things about this robot that's sort of unique and simple in all the best ways. I really like that. So you guys got to compete at the Hatboro Horsham District this year. Dylan, one of the things I know folks who are missing the first season so dearly want to take part in is sort of these recaps of the season. So Dylan, why don't you start us off with a little bit about your experience at the Hatboro District?
Sure. So at Hatboro, our robot performed as we sort of hoped. One of our biggest snags was when we broke our Johnson Electric PLG motor, which was the motor that was attached to the spool that lifted our 3-stage lifter mechanism. And we lacked the replacement. It has a proprietary axle, which we were unable to find at the event. However, we were able to quickly swap it out for a bag motor and its own gearbox during a larger break in our schedule. One of the mechanisms we were most proud of at competition was our shooter. We were able to score in the inner port a handful of times, especially with our auto, and scored in the outer port reliably throughout our matches. During the competition, we actually changed our strategy to adapt to the traffic on the field. We originally designed our robot to shoot from the half court, behind the control panel. But during competition, we decided that we were more reliable when we shot closer to the goal between the trench and generator switch in that little triangular area. In the end game, we had issues with our hook disconnecting and falling over the run. And this was due to its misalignment as we attempted to place it on the run. And after each failed attempt, there was no way of making a second attempt after it had detached itself from our 3-stage lift.
Yeah, I think that's one of the cooler stories we've heard in terms of reflection on, you know, the limited amount of involvement this season in terms of official play, right? I think it's really cool and really, really impressive to see a team who is able to adjust their strategy to be as effective as possible for their alliance or for their particular situation. So props to you guys on that. Let me ask you, so you've played through Hatboro, you've had time to reflect on it and review in your heads. What have you learned from your experience at Hatboro?
I think something that we really learned just like on the robot is that we needed something to make our robot less jumpy. And so we decided to replace the center wheel in our chassis because we had 6 with a rocking wheel. We just decided to replace it with a smaller one to eliminate the rocking motion it caused. We chose this because the reduced turn speed outweighed the increased stability we gained. It just seemed like a better option for us. We also decided to reverse and mirror the 3-stage dummy lift in order to pull it closer inside our footprint, allowing for more room for a hook guide. This way, we would no longer have an issue with our hook falling over the generator switch.
Cool. I know one of the other things that people are really excited about for the game, obviously since we only saw a little bit of it, was about strategy and specifically scouting. So Sarah, was there anything that Team Chaos learned about scouting and about in-game strategy?
Oh, yes, we learned a lot about that from this competition. I think one of the biggest things we learned was when you've got 14 matches and a whole lot of teams, the information that you collect really needs to be a little bit systematic and easy to organize. And so after our first competition, we realized, okay, we need to find a way to be more systematic, whether it's our own technology or using something else that another team made. So we had one of our alumni come and visit us and show us this this system called Fires, and she's a mentor of another team, so she showed what she uses for her team, and she said this works really well. I think you guys should try this, and it's a really cool system that someone created on their own from another team. Basically, we practiced with this app sort of thing, and we watched our matches from Hatboro and practice scouting with them. And we were also planning on going to a competition in Mount Olive, really close by to us, to practice watching other teams' strategies and scouting there. But unfortunately, it was among the many competitions that were canceled this season. So we did not get to do that. But this is a goal for next season, again, to improve our scouting system, and we're really having high hopes for that next season. So
cool. Yeah, I think another thing is, with scouting and strategy and data collection and things like that, that's something that's so commonly overlooked by teams until they realize how important it is to have that when they're in those pressure situations. So it's impressive that you guys have a plan set and also a strategy to practice the strategy, if and when that opportunity comes. So that's awesome. Dylan, I'm curious to hear a little bit more about something called the Zach dashboard. Could you elaborate on that?
Sure. So a lead programmer on our team, Zach, he created something that he calls the Chaos dashboard, and it is a new dashboard that we planned on using at Ben Salem, but we will instead be developing it in the off season and as seasons to come. It is a publicly accessible project that you can find on GitHub that uses the React framework, which is a good tool for students to create web applications and to sort of get used to using web programs. The program has many advantages, especially when it comes to appearance. Teams can input their own logo and color scheme, as well as an SVG or 3D model of the robot for real-time animations and visualizations during the game. In addition to the visuals, the dashboard has a real-time input curve editor for fast lerp and variable tuning, as well as autonomous presets, game-specific visuals, and a game time clock. So all of those things we really hope will enhance our driving situation next year so that we have as much control over our robot as we possibly can.
That is so cool. I love the idea of being able to customize that dashboard, but also to sort of visualize what's happening on the field. That could be really cool. So if we want to find out more about that, we can check out your GitHub. But if I wanted to know anything else about Team 2458, Team Chaos, where would I find you guys?
If you have any questions or just want to talk to us about anything, you can feel free to contact us through our team email, like our Instagram, our Facebook, or through the contact us page on our website.
Well, thank you guys so much for your time tonight. We certainly appreciate it, and we hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's awesome. Another great perspective from a team who's actually had an opportunity to compete this year. And big fan of Jared.
Another team who's had an opportunity to compete this season in Infinite Recharge. Let's take a look at Team 4575, the Tin Mints from Prospect Park, Pennsylvania. All right, we're here with Team 4575, the Tin Mints. I've got Cassie, Haley, Miriam, and mentor Mr. Joe. So why don't you guys tell us a little bit about your team?
Hi, I'm Cassie. I am the driver and the captain for our team.
I'm Haley. I'm the operator.
I'm Miriam. I'm the lead programmer, and I also work on electrical.
Nice. Yeah, that's cool. It's good to meet you guys. I'm excited to learn more. So let's start off with your first section. Tell us a little bit more about a particular summer event that you guys have put on in the past.
Yeah, so we held an event called Robot Stock this past year, and it was in August. And it was a 55,000 square foot expo. You can actually see the giant space that we had to work with. And it introduced over 4,000 new people to FIRST. So you can see some of our crowd photos. You can see some Girl Scouts looking at the FRC field there. You can see some people looking at one of our Women in STEM presentations. So you can just see the sheer number of people that got introduced to FIRST for the first time ever.
That's really cool, and also seems like a lot of work. How did you guys plan that out?
So yeah, it was a lot of work, but we were really passionate about what we wanted to do. We had to plan it during our summer camp, and we also only had 8 weeks to plan it. So we sent out lots of emails and made lots of spreadsheets in that time. We contacted so many sponsors and some cool techie businesses, a bunch of FIRST teams, and a lot of women in STEM speakers. So we had a lot of fun, but it was a lot of work.
There seems to be a specific portion of Robot Stock that we want to talk about now, something called Maker's Row. What exactly is that?
So we partnered with our brother team, 6327, and they basically planned it. I mean, we helped them out with it, but they mostly planned it. They contacted a bunch of techie business people, and there was a bunch of hands-on experiences within those businesses. So we had drones, electric race cars, and one of the hands-on experiences was actually a take-apart table. So they took apart old electronics that were no longer in use.
It sounds like an awesome sort of expo opportunity for STEM and for FIRST. How were all 4 of the FIRST programs represented?
So we had all 4 families of FIRST there. So we had a full-sized FRC field where kids actually got to ref, be human players, and they also got to interact with FRC teams 423 and 2607.
Yeah, so our driver's experience was something that we thought of during the summer, and we have the pyramid, we have the scale switch and airship, all sorts of things that we've had from throughout the years, and people got to drive through them, just learning how to drive a robot, and it was a lot of fun. Miriam, do you want to keep talking about how we had FLL Junior there too?
Yeah, so we also had an FLL Junior zone where kids could build buildings out of recycled materials. And then we had an FLL zone where there were 4 FLL tables, and there was also a zone where you could build robots, 5-minute robots. Even if you had never touched Legos before, we would help you through the process of it, and we would teach you how to build, how to program, anything like that. And then we also had FTC teams, and I'll let Haley talk a little bit about all the fun that FRC had there.
Yes, so in the FRC section on the field, actually 1640 ended up yeeting onto Hab level 3. And during one of the other matches, they ended up playing Minecraft while they were driving the robot. So Minecraft was up on the screen while they were still connected to the field.
Nice. Yeah, it sounds like a good time. I have a bit of an outreach related question for you guys. You guys are one of the few all girl teams in the region. That being said, did you do anything in particular to incorporate women in robot stock?
Yes, actually, we had a Women in STEM expo within our expo. So we ended up having about 8 women speakers. One was a real life Rosie the Riveter, June Robbins. She loved everything. So we also had a Girl Scout badge trifecta where girls could earn their badge trifecta, their robotics badges. And we ended up having about 200 Girl Scouts earn their badge trifecta.
That's really cool. I know that the robotics badge system is pretty comprehensive, so I love being able to get that for over 200 Girl Scouts. It's amazing. So I have a question. Of course, we're all missing robotics. Is Robot Stock coming back next year?
Yeah, so Robot Stock is coming this year, hopefully, as long as everything's safe. It'll be September
course.
12th through 13th. And we're super excited to have everybody there at the Greater Philadelphia Expo Center.
Nice. Yeah, it definitely sounds like one of those events worth checking out. So hopefully everything goes well and goes off without a hitch. Um, so let's talk about something a little bit different. Can you tell me a little bit about what you guys do during the summer aside from planning robot stock? I think there's a summer camp you guys mentioned earlier.
Yes, so for our summer camp, we have about 7 weeks for kindergarten to about 12th grade. And there we have 2 separate programs. We have kindergarten to about 5th, 6th grade for FLL robots. So for kindergarten to about 3rd grade, they make robots to do mazes. And then 4th to 5th or 6th grade, they make robots to compete challenges from past years or previous years, that kind of thing. And for the older kids, they make FRC robots, and they get to do kitbot frames, or they can do sumo bots or other fun stuff.
So moving into more specifically the FRC season, I heard that you guys actually moved during build season. How did that go?
So yeah, we moved during build season. We moved to the Springfield Mall. So as much as we love our new location, it's amazing. It was really hard moving in the middle of build season, as any team could probably assume. But we were really lucky because we had the fire company, the Prospect Park Fire Company, helped us move because we had a really good relationship with them. You can see a picture of them the first time their chief met us, and we just kind of hit it off. We helped them with a whole bunch of different things. They helped us fill up our 2 U-Hauls, and we moved to the Springfield Mall. So it was hard, but it was worth it.
Nice. And tell us more about your new location. How is it?
So our new location's pretty awesome because it gives us constant outreach, and it helps us with our outreach practice so that we can do better at outreaches.
That's really awesome. Now, of course, one of the other sort of defining things about the Tin Mints is that you guys are a Girl Scout team. What is that like? What's it like being a Girl Scout team, and how do you incorporate the Girl Scouts into your programs?
Yeah, so being a Girl Scout team is amazing. One great thing is it immediately gives us a connection to other Girl Scout teams that we have. Like there's an FTC team in New Jersey actually, and we're actually working with them on a project. But it also helps us be an awesome role model to younger Girl Scouts, and that's just something that you don't get from not being a regular FRC team.
Yeah, so we incorporate Girl Scouts into our program in a ton of other ways. We have an all-girls FLL team that they're just automatically friends because they have this aspect about them that's the same. They're Girl Scouts, and they're all like friends, and they have this pose that they do that actually originated from a competition last year, which I'll let Cassie talk about.
Yeah, so actually at Brunswick last year, one of our mentors wanted to take a picture of the drive team. And so we all just kind of crossed our arms and looked all serious. And that became the Mr. Joe pose, named after our mentor. One of the girls on drive team is a mentor for FLL. She passed it down to FLL, and now it's just become a thing. Haley, you want to talk about our other Girl Scout programs?
Yeah, so we have the Girl Scout badge program, like we talked about earlier. But besides just doing it in robot stock, we also do it during our Haparo Horsham event, and we've done them last year's competitions. So we got to let girls earn their badge trifecta again for another time. And we also have helped girls with their take action projects, which is pretty awesome because they came to us for help.
Nice. Yeah. It sounds like you guys have a very thorough outreach system. And it sounds like it got even stronger now that you're headquartered in a retail space in a mall, right? That's awesome. So let's shift gears a little bit here. Let's talk about your 2020 robot. First, let's start off with unique details, right? Is there anything different about this robot's construction this year?
Yes, so this year we actually spent about 6 weeks prototyping and only about 4 days actually building our actual robot. So we spent a lot of time practicing working on our shooter, our cookie factory, and even our climber. And we also, this year, we had an electronics box. So what's unique about this is that our electronics box can come out of this robot and go into a different robot. So we can reuse it instead of thinking of a whole new solution of how to put our electronics into our robot. And another cool thing that brings with our robot and electronics box is that our electronics box can come almost completely out of our robot, and we are able to open it and work on stuff in case there's a problem. One of the people in the pits needed to see what was inside of the electronics box because there was a problem, so they were able to do that freely without unplugging all of our electronics.
That's really cool. I know a lot of teams talk about modular designs when it comes to mechanical systems, but it's been a long time in FRC since I've seen sort of the lift out electronics components. That was a big craze when the control system was a lot bulkier, but I haven't seen it in a while, so I'm excited to see it kind of make a return. So you mentioned something in there, and you referred to it as the cookie factory. What is the cookie factory, and why is it called that?
Yeah, so the cookie factory is the main part of our robot that manipulates the power cells. So it includes our intake, the main part that holds the power cells, and both of our shooters. We call it the cookie factory because, it encompasses everything just like a factory does, but also it has Thin Mint and Caramel Delight boxes on the side. So the cookie factory is just the perfect name.
No, that's cool that you guys have incorporated some branding into a technical aspect of the robot, and it makes a lot of sense, right? Let's talk about shooting. How does your team shoot power cells?
Yeah, so we actually go up to New Hampshire every year for kickoff, and we were up there and we decided, yeah, we have to shoot from more than just one location. That just has to be a thing that happens. So we decided we were going to shoot from the target zone, completely inside the trench, and up against the truss that's closest to the power ports. So we created an adjustable hood that could move, so that way it would adjust where where the power cell left our robot. So it would change where it went into the power port.
What about storing power cells and picking them up off the ground? What was the rest of that power cell sort of architecture?
So we stored our power cells in our factory. We stored it on our conveyor system, so we fit it in there. And we actually had a baffle which directed the power cell into either the high shooter or the low shooter. And I'll let Cassie talk about how we picked up power cells off the ground.
Yeah, so we decided that we needed an internal intake that would work just as well as an external one. So you can actually see the green wheels in the picture there, and that was our internal intake system. So as soon as the power cells hit those green wheels, it brought them up into the robot and through our cookie factory.
Nice. So let's move into the end game strategy here. How does the climb work?
It was 118's Everybot design, but we modified it a little bit. So they used a ratchet strap to lift the climber's arm. So it wasn't quite strong enough. It teared quickly. So we decided to use paracord, but then we realized that also wasn't quite strong enough. And then we came to the conclusion that mule tape was the strongest, but also the thinnest, so that it wouldn't wrap up and knot around our hex shaft.
Now, of course, you guys did get a chance to compete at the Hapro Horsham District. What was your strategy for Hapro?
Our climber worked not great, but it worked. Our intake wasn't working and our shooter wasn't working. And we couldn't get our intake or shooter fixed. So we went into Hapro without a way to pick up power cells, but we could discharge them into the local. That meant that we ended up going to defense because our first match, we tried it, didn't work, went straight to defense. We ended up being 12th in the ranking and 8th alliance captain, where we went to a tiebreaker match against the first alliance. Unfortunately, we lost, but we still had a ton of fun at Hatboro.
So, of course, our season has shifted. We've taken a turn in our schedule. What are the Tin Mints working on right now?
So currently we are still running our program. So we have FLL Junior, which is open to anybody, and we also have 2 different kinds of FLL. So we have one for returning team members, we have sessions for returning team members, and then we also have sessions for new kids. So it's open to the public, it's free, and it's super fun. We do it over Zoom, and we have a programming unicorn, because, who doesn't want to learn programming from a magical unicorn?
All right. So before we close up on the 4575 segment for tonight, I have one last question for you guys. Do you have any other tidbits or pieces of information about the team that you'd like to share?
Yeah, so we actually just wanted to give a shout out to 2 people that helped us a ton at Robot Stock, Howard and Nikki. I'm sure you guys have all heard of them before. They're huge in FMA. So they helped us out a ton at Robot Stock, and we just wanted to give them a little credit for that. We also just wanted to thank our sponsors, Boeing, DoD STEM, Eastern PA Robotics, Headshot Props, and then all of our friends and family.
Of course, without them, we couldn't keep the season running. So if I want to learn more about Team 4575, the Tin Mints, where can I find you guys online?
Yep, so you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at the places on the screen.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for your time tonight. We certainly appreciate you joining in for FMA Plus.
Of course, thanks so much for having us.
A big thank you to the Tin Mints, an awesome segment, and I hope we all get to join you at Robot Stock this year. First Mid-Atlantic is grateful for its sponsors. We are fortunate to have a chief engineer and a senior scientist representing Lockheed Martin on this episode. Mr. Jim Judd is the chief engineer for Homeland Defense Radars at Lockheed Martin in Morristown, New Jersey. He has over 35 years of experience in systems, software, and hardware engineering, and he is the executive sponsor for Lockheed Martin's first robotics outreach activity, and he's been a first volunteer for almost 20 years. Dr. Medea Jaffrey is a senior scientist at Lockheed Martin with a focus in artificial intelligence and cybersecurity. She has been a proud supporter of FIRST for almost 10 years and is a strong advocate for diversity and inclusion in STEM fields.
Hello, my name is Jim Judd. I'm the Chief Engineer for Homeland Defense Radars at Lockheed Martin in Morristown, New Jersey. I'm an electrical engineer, a Drexel University graduate, and a longtime FIRST volunteer. I'd like to thank First Mid-Atlantic for inviting Lockheed Martin to participate in this webcast. Around the same time that Dean Kamen and Woody Flowers were starting to make their vision of a new robotics competition for high school students a reality, Lockheed Martin managers like me were beginning to experience an industry-wide shortage of engineering professionals, especially among new college graduates. We were becoming increasingly concerned about declining STEM college enrollments, and like Dean and Woody, recognized the need for a culture change, where young people would once again become excited about STEM. At that time, Lockheed Martin made a strong commitment to promoting STEM by supporting many new initiatives, including becoming a sponsor for FIRST. Almost 25 years later, even the most optimistic people are amazed at how successful FIRST has become, not only helping to produce thousands of gracious STEM professionals, but in making STEM a way of life for so many young people. At the time of the very first FRC event, less than 8% of graduating engineers were women. That number is approaching 30% today, one of the many benefits of our new STEM culture. Today, Lockheed Martin sponsors and mentors hundreds of teams, and we are proud to have been a FIRST partner from the very beginning. Now I'm happy to introduce Dr. Medea Jaffrey to say a little more about Lockheed Martin's partnership with First Mid-Atlantic.
Thanks, Jim. Hi, I'm Medea Jaffrey from Lockheed Martin, and I'm super excited to be here. This was a challenging year, but you all turned out to be even stronger, and we are so proud of you for that. For those of you who are graduating, congratulations, but your journey doesn't end here. Please take the time to connect with FIRST alumni, as well as professionals like myself or Jim Judd or anyone else that you have connected to throughout your FIRST journey on professional sites such as LinkedIn, so that we can continue to stay engaged throughout college, as well as hopefully recruit you as part of our workforce when the time comes. I think one of the biggest disappointments this year was, as engineers, was to not be able to see your robots in action. So just wanted to take the next few minutes to show you a collection of our 2019 montage of a few teams that are sponsored by Lockheed Martin in our local and regional events. Hopefully you'll see some familiar faces. Stay healthy, stay connected, and enjoy the video.
So third up on our lineup for tonight is Team 25, one of the better known veterans from our region. So let's learn a little bit more about their team and their robot. All right, so we're here with one of the perennial teams from the First Mid-Atlantic region, Team 25, Raider Robotics. I'm here with student representatives AJ, Varun, and Kevin, and they are joined by their mentors, David and Karen. So with that, I'll hand it off to you guys. We already know who Team 25 is, but I'd like to learn a little bit more about what makes your team different from others.
So ever since we started the team in the early 2000s, we've always been known for our custom tank drives. So every year we decide to make the same base design. We'll obviously modify it for the different versions of the game, but we'll have normal 9-inch Skyway beadlock wheels that we usually find on electric wheelchairs, and we'll shave it down and custom thread it. And we chose this type of wheel as it gives us incredible traction in the forward direction, but it still allows enough scrub for us to turn. And we also chose the center wheels out of the 6 to be dropped down a 1/16 of an inch lower so that we could have better turning.
Yeah, I know the 25 drive crate is one of those things. As someone who's not only competed in First Mid-Atlantic for 15 years, but also grown up around First Mid-Atlantic robots, like the 25 drivetrain is an icon. Let's talk about this year's robot. What makes your robot unique this year, and what did you do differently?
All right. So this year, one of our what something that we're pretty proud of is our climber this year. We took upon ourselves to look at past designs and found inspiration through the our climber from 2016 during Stronghold, and we modified it to fit our needs. And in fact, some of our students saw ways to improve it through lessons that they learned from engineering classes in our school.
This year, what made our robot unique was we decided to have a self-leveling climber. So once we climb onto the shield generator, we'll be able to rotate around using a set of Banebot wheels that we created to make a big, long wheel that it could run across. So it's a hook consisting of the wheels inside, which grab traction onto the shield generator and is able to go up and down. So when a partner climbs on the other end and we're not balanced, we can move to the right or to the left to get those extra ranking points. And we've also, for the first time, decided to use a limelight for our shooter, which we haven't actually used in the past. So we're able to get much more consistent shots. We're able to line up, and the limelight's able to let us know if we're lined up correctly to get the inner shot or not. And it can also let us know if we could get the outer shot as well for when we want to get those faster cycle times. The climber consists of a chain-driven drive of a 775 motor. It has a geared down ratio to achieve better torque so that we could make sure that we could go up and down without slipping on it.
Nice. Yeah, I think the ability to auto level is something that if you have the resources to pull something like that off, I think that that's a game changer without being too punny, given the recent announcement. But that's one of those things, like, it's not terribly necessary, right? Obviously, moving around the field is something you got to have, or you're not even going to be competitive. But I think what could make you great instead of good is that ability to self level, right? It could be, 9 times out of 10 won't be the end of the world if you don't have it, but that one time is going to count, and that's what's going to put you ahead in the rankings. So it sounds like you guys drew a lot of inspiration from the 3-day build and found some ways to make it more efficient and improve upon an already great idea. So that's awesome. So one of the things that is somewhat interesting about Team 25 is their branding and their overall public image, right? You guys are Raider Robotics, Team 25, but you're rocking the Hawaiian shirts and the Hawaiian theme. So is there an interesting origin story behind that? And also, how does that play into the name of the robot for this year?
As for how it leads into our team name, we kind of just embraced the Hawaiian culture into our team, and we ended up naming our robot Kuhala because it means balancer in Hawaiian. So we wanted to emphasize our auto leveling and make that a core part of the name as well.
That's cool. I know one of my favorite things about the Brunswick Eruption off-season event is the unique trophies you guys give out. Those cool Hawaiian tiki trophies are awesome to get when you earn one, and they tie right in with your imagery. So you guys have thought about all the angles. That's awesome.
I remember in the early days of my team, we were struggling with no sponsors, and we happened to win an award at Brunswick Eruption, and the tiki we got was the something about like good fortune. Like they all have like names and what they're for, and it was like the tiki of fortune. And we ended up having a sponsor the next year for the first time as a baby team. So I love the imagery. I have a collection of all the old 25 Hawaiians, and it's definitely something that is so different because you see. I'm sure you guys hear it all the time. You get this idea of like, oh, is that team from Hawaii? No, they're from New Jersey, and it's fun. One of the things I love the most about the first community is that you can just have fun with your team's brand. So coming back to Kuhala, to this year's robot, what are you most proud of this season?
So the big thing about why we enjoy or are proud of our tower this year is that we were like able to use things that we learned in our engineering classes is a block and tackle for mechanical advantage. And in fact, one of our sophomores brought it up, and we used it, implemented it into the tower, and it worked wonders. We were only able to get off like, I would say about 3 inches off the floor initially, and then once we implemented the block and tackle, we were able to get almost a foot off. And if the video plays now, it'll show that after the block and tackle how high it went. So yeah, that's one of the big things we were proud of.
Cool. Yeah, it's definitely, it's an exciting feeling to learn, an engineering principle or a technical principle or any kind of concept, and it be able to apply it to a real world application, right? I think that's what makes good, technologists great, is not just memorizing formulas or memorizing concepts, but learning how to actually apply them in a tangible way that actually benefits, the world, your projects, your team, whatever it is. So that's cool that you guys recognize that value. So in a little bit of a different direction, you guys have talked about this awesome robot. You've talked about the auto balancing and the great branding that your team is known for. Is there any challenges you guys overcame this season, or maybe in recent memory? Any obstacles that you've overcome?
Yeah, definitely. This year was like full of challenges for us. So last summer, our school was shut down for repairs. The year previously, they had found mold in our ventilation. And so this summer, they had to shut down the school to like replace all the vents and stuff. Every summer we hold our summer program where we like educate freshmen on all the basics, and we weren't able to hold that this year. So it was like a lot of effort to like onboard incoming teammates, in September. The second thing that happened was our off-season event, Brunswick Eruption. We weren't able to hold it in the high school. That news came out like almost last minute, and it was like a huge scramble for us to like reschedule. Like, were we even going to hold it? Eventually, we were able to move it to our middle school. That itself presented its own set of challenges. Me and Coven, we definitely had our work cut out for us running the whole thing. It took a lot of people working together to make that one happen, but we're so grateful that we were able to hold our event.
Oh, for sure. Any of those last minute changes last minute changes when it's like, oh no, the tablecloths didn't get there, or like already stressful enough, but like, hey, just change buildings, no stress, just a casual slight change to the event. But I know you guys pulled through it, and Brunswick Eruption was still awesome as ever. So we've talked about sort of the look and the brand of Team 25, but beyond just the look, do you guys have any fun traditions you want to share with FMA Plus?
Yeah, sure. So one of our big traditions is definitely wearing our Hawaiians. Our team uniform consists of our Hawaiians, our black team shirt with our logo right in the middle, and then we always wear khakis to events. Something that has been held in past Brunswick Eruptions, but we weren't able to do it because of scheduling conflicts, is Evil Sunday, where Mr. Coakley comes out with his big Coakley stick and MCs a giant eating contest of a bunch of random stuff. I remember one year, there were pork rinds or sardines sometimes. It was a bunch of disgusting stuff. Another thing that we do, usually when if we're going to a team dinner or we're out somewhere, we will do a nice prank happy birthday. We've done it to Christian, one of our mentors in the past. When we've done it to other mentors, it's always a different mentor every time. And one thing that we brought back this year was Mr. Volcano, who's our mascot from 2000. We used to have a really tall guy on our team, and he used to wear this volcano hat. And this year, one person on the cheer team decided, him and Mrs. Zoller decided to remake our volcano hat. There's now a smoke machine emitting smoke from it, a paper mache volcano on top of it. It's got everything. And he was going to come to competitions and lead cheers and stuff. So this is some cool stuff.
Nice. Yeah, I appreciate the effort put into trying to have some fun as well, and it definitely sounds like you guys build a lot of team camaraderie amongst your efforts of building your brand and building your robots. So super interesting to learn a little bit about that. A little bummed we didn't get to see Mr. Volcano this year, but maybe he'll show up at some point in the near future. Obviously we're dealing with a lot of shelter in place stuff right now, and a lot of social distancing mandates, given certain circumstances or current circumstances. Is your team doing anything now from home to keep busy?
Oh, definitely. It's the FMA Plus episodes, like without a doubt. Being able to like bond like over like talking about other teams and what they've accomplished. It's probably the only thing like keeping us together right now. Usually around this time of year, we would have like an end of season picnic. Our mentors help organize that one. We all get together, have like a send off for all of our seniors. It's just nice. It's like a show gathering. Obviously that's not going to happen this year, but you know what? It's all right.
Yeah, I know it's really important to make sure that we're all sticking together. I'm glad you guys are sort of staying together digitally, and hopefully we'll all be able to see each other soon. Now, one of the questions for Team 25 is, how do you guys reach out to and support your community?
One of our big events is Heritage Day, where we go to the North Brunswick Community Park and demo our robot. Usually we bring the 2012 robot, and we like to shoot balls at the kids, or so they can catch the balls and feed them back into the robot. We also inform the community about like other events that we have. Like we promote Brunswick Eruption there, and we also promote elementary robotics. So elementary robotics is a program that is student run, and we work with Lego We Do kits, which are sent to us by the school, and it's usually from 4th to 5th graders, and we run it after school for our 4th and 5th grade students. And then we also usually at the end of the year, we'll go to the 8th grade robotics classes that are held at the middle school and give a presentation about our, to introduce FIRST and our team to them so they can come to the summer program that comes afterwards and learn about basic machining, the tools in the workshop, and we actually assemble a drive base with them. Another thing that we were planning on doing is at our library, we were going to host a program for middle school and elementary school students where they could learn how to program robots and build them through the Lego Mindstorms kits that we already have from previous years. But unfortunately, this got canceled due to the outbreak.
All right, Team 25, Raider Robotics. It's awesome to hear from one of the veteran teams within our region. Super excited to see this robot in action, hopefully sooner rather than later, like we've been saying all FMA plus season. So with that, I have one last question for you guys. If we want to learn more about Team 25 and Raider Robotics online or anywhere else, where can we go to learn more?
Yep, you could always hop onto our website at raiderrobotics.org, where we have all our robots from the past, which has a huge description of what they did. And you could always visit our Instagram at Raider Robotics to see pictures of us working during the build season and during competition season. And our YouTube, Raider Robotics FRC Team 25, where you could even see our reveal video for this year.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for your time tonight, and we hope we see you soon.
Yeah, it's super interesting to learn where the 25 Hawaiian brand came from, as well as a little bit more about their iconic drivetrain.
And of course, our final team tonight, Team 8117, the Robo Rovers. They're a rookie who has robotics experience, but not necessarily FRC experience. This is their first time participating in the FRC season. They're from Easton, Pennsylvania. Let's take a look at their team and their journey this season. So we're here tonight with Team 8117, the Robo Rovers. I've got Jenny and Darius, Ethan, and their mentor, Mrs. Clements. And we're going to learn a little bit about this team. So Jenny, why don't you start us off with some team history?
So our team started in 2017 as an after-school robotics club for people who couldn't fit an engineering class into their schedule. Our school is a huge school of almost 3,000 kids with a lot of extracurriculars, and kids who couldn't get into the PLTW program didn't have any other option to learn about the engineering process. So these 3 alumni from our school decided to start a robotics club where we would build small robots out of VEX parts. They eventually wanted to compete in FIRST, but when we sat down and tried to get that process and get registered and everything, we didn't have enough funds to actually start the team and compete that year, which was the 2018 to 19 school year. We actually also had an old team number, which was 7584. So after these seniors graduated, we decided to ramp up our fundraising efforts, and we're able to gather funds to compete in this year's Infinite Recharge Challenge.
All right, cool. So that's a really interesting origin, right? You guys, gave it a shot, had some passionate alumni. And the other thing that I really like about what you just said there, Jenny, is that, you talked about how some students were not able to fit the conventional engineering class into their schedule. So instead of just saying, well, guess I can't do it, you guys found a way to do it, which is inherently, baked into the culture of FIRST, right? It's all about finding a solution instead of accepting, a failure. So that's awesome. So Ethan, let's move into this year. What kind of developments did you guys experience moving into this year?
So compared to last year where we were flat out broke, this year we made a lot of big money moves. First off, this year was because our mentor is crazy good at networking. In order to pay the big fee to create a new team, we got a sponsorship deal with Picatinny Arsenal. They're like a military research facility, and they paid for the entire registration fee for FIRST with us. And they sent an engineer named Mr. Tomic to help us build the robot because they wanted to start an FRC team as a sort of like STEM project for the government. after that, we were like kind of nobodies, and then until this year, we made a lot of media moves. So we met with the mayor of Easton because the Argosy Foundation, they were going to donate a lot of tools to us, and because our our mentor was also really good at networking, she knew a friend of the mayor, mutual friend. So we all met at the high school. The Argosy Foundation wheeled in all their tools, and we took a big picture, and they gave us $500 too. So that was really nice, and we got on the cover of Lehigh Valley Live and WFMZ, our two local news stations. That was really cool. And then our local college, Lafayette College, we made a partnership with them because we were rookies and we really didn't know how to build a robot. So they had a program there, and they would send us engineering students every other day of the week, and they helped us build a robot.
Yeah, I know those foundational steps can be so important for rookie teams, right? Whether it's grants or tools or just sort of building the structure around an FRC program, all of those things are so important. And of course, many of the sponsors you mentioned are also sponsors of the first Mid-Atlantic region in general. So thank you to those sponsors for supporting not only 8117, but first Mid-Atlantic as a whole. So obviously, you got it together, you made your money moves, like you said, and you were able to join the Infinite Recharge Challenge for the first robotics competition. Let's jump into some of the robot specs. And Darius, what did you guys build for this year's challenge?
So at first, the main problem that we kind of saw while building our robot was that we were a rookie team. And so we kind of had to try to take all of our very grandiose plans and try to condense them down into something we would actually be able to accomplish within the allotted time that we needed. So we decided to make a very basic design where it's just a intake, outtake, and then we wanted to have the climber. So throughout the process, we went through a few different designs, but we ultimately focused on one which had an opening for a ball to go into, and then it went into a central chute that would go into the shooter. So the base of our robot was just the drive base that we were able to construct from first. And we added these hollow aluminum 2x1s to be able to just get a basic frame for our robot. And then for the climbers, we never actually got to finish them by the time that we obviously went to quarantine. So we were planning on using Neo motors for those, and to have them be along the sides of our robot to kind of go up, bring a hook up, and latch onto the bar. And then our intake and outtake, we used the mini sim motors and made it so we'd be able to pick up the balls and then shoot them into the goal. And so we decided to focus on the lower goal, so that way we could pick up the balls, drive up to it, and shoot them all in when needed. And then the autonomous phase of our robot, we started out with manual coding for it and just kind of going through it, testing a whole bunch of stuff out with it. And then we figured out something called Cougar Echo, made by the Cougar team. And we tried figuring out stuff with that to try to automate our autonomous phase creation. And by the time that the quarantine started, we did not get it finalized or figured it out, but we were hoping to use it to kind of speed up the process so we didn't have to manually code the entire autonomous phase.
Yeah, I think what's cool about this approach is that you take some really good research and you cross it with a really good understanding of your capabilities, right? So you weren't aiming too high, but at the same time, you were not selling yourselves too short, it sounds like. And there was still a certain level of ambition in your design approach when it came to producing the final product for your robot, even though it's not completely done yet. But hopefully you guys will get back into your lab sooner rather than later. So you guys have talked a little bit about the team's origin and those money moves. That might be the buzzword for the segment. I love that. I think I might petition that you guys should name your robot money moves, but that's a conversation for a later time. So now that you have your robot ready to go, or you've at least presented it, let's talk a little bit about what kind of mentor and engineering support you guys had. As a rookie team, I assume there was a little bit of an exercise involved in producing this mentor base or this engineering base. So what was that like?
So what happened was it was really rare. I mean, we're really lucky that we had a lot of mentors this year. I wasn't expecting this many people to reach out to us. It was surprising because all we had to do was just ask around local engineers. We just said, we're a rookie robotics team. Can you help us? And then what happened was one person would come in and then they would bring in 2 more people. So by the end of the year, we had a good group of like around 8 adults helping us out. And most of them were experienced professionals. Like I know some parents came in to help us, but I mean, it was invaluable the support they gave us. I'm really grateful for that. We had a lot of people from local companies like Lutron, the electronics company. We had Ava Carrot, Dan the Ball, Jared Sarnell. They're all from Lutron, and they spent they just cut out hours of their day just to come in after school to help us when they could be at home spending their free time. Mr. Gary Slawick from Bueller of America, he specially 3D printed our pulleys just for us out of his own time. I know from Mack Trucks, a local truck company, Ryan Heater and Mr. Jeff Hill, they definitely helped us with the electronics portion of our robot. Without them, I don't think we could have got the robot to run as well as it did. And Mr. Nimish Dewan from Comcast, he definitely helped us with our money moves. He made the connections. We got to a special training camp in Philadelphia just for him, and he brought in so many sponsors. I can't think of them enough.
Yeah, mentor support is so crucial. First is, of course, a mentor-based program, and so it's so cool to hear, oh yeah, we just sort of like went around the community and people wanted to help. Whether it is, business-minded or engineering-minded, volunteer mentors absolutely make teams happen. So it's nice to hear that you guys got so much awesome adult support so early on. So experiencing the Infinite Recharge season, and of course an FRC season for the first time, what did your game strategy look like?
So the first thing that we were kind of looking toward while going for the actual competition was how we were going to be able to get the points during the game and get ranking points after the game. The main way that we kind of saw of getting points, and the ones that we went with, were to score the balls, climb the bar, and then get autonomous points. We decided to skip the spinner, mostly due to time constraints, and we didn't have as much space as needed to kind of create a new device that would be able to spin it for us accurately. Why we chose the low goal is, again, just because general time constraints and because of what was going on, as well as the first design that we had in mind was to go toward the large hexagonal goal, but there ended up being some problems with the design process, and the angle for the shooter would not go high enough without causing problems for the intake. So we decided to, instead of just completely dismantling the whole robot and trying again, we decided to kind of cut our losses a bit and go strictly for the low goal, because being able to go for that one accurately and efficiently is a lot better than kind of just getting no points at all through the goals.
I think that's a smart move. There's a lot of appeal to doing the flashy, the high flying challenges in a game, but a lot of times a well put together alliance that consists of robots that have niche roles that can complement each other well is very effective and very competitive. So I definitely see the logic there, and I can appreciate the direction you guys went in. All right, so Ethan, we heard from Andreas a little bit about the robot in pretty good detail. I've heard that you guys have some interesting practices when it comes to just breaking up the monotony and just kind of taking a minute to decompress. And so I heard about that. And then I started looking through some of the team media that was uploaded onto our drive, and I saw a very interesting photo that involved what looks like a toy lightsaber and a collection of yardsticks and some interesting poses. Ethan, perhaps you could elaborate a little bit about that?
Well, when you have a lot of freshmen in your class, and our teacher, she's a pretty big Star Wars fan. So, you have and she's a science teacher. So you have all these yardsticks lying around the room. And, there just happens to be a toy lightsaber propped up in the room. And it's like, I leave the classroom for a few minutes and then I started hear screaming and I hear someone say, General Kenobi. So I go outside and I see I see my 3 freshmen. As you can see on the right, we have one of our freshmen, Brandon, and mounted on top of him, we have Vincent, and they're going at it full Revenge of the Sith style. So, robotics is interesting, but the most interesting thing about robotics is the people.
For sure. I mean, I think if you're all work and no play, you're not getting through the build season with your sanity. So I love seeing that you guys can have some lighthearted moments inside of what is normally a very stressful time of year. I love it.
So as a rookie team in such an interesting year, would you guys be able to speak a little bit about your experiences as this new team, this new rookie team within FMA? What was it like, or what has it been like?
So it's actually been amazing, especially for those in our team that have been able to go to things like the first boot camp at Comcast Center. We were able to meet so many other teams, and they were so nice to us, especially because we were rookies. And I think the whole networking thing was amazing, and that's like a great part of FIRST that I personally love, meeting these new people from other teams and learning things from their teams too. Besides meeting other teams, we have also been able to go and be recognized by our school district and have been able to go to other opportunities that wouldn't have been possible unless we've done FIRST. Like, I was personally able to go to Picatinny Arsenal's Teach a Girl Engineering Day. And that was an amazing experience to see how engineering's applied in the Department of Defense.
Yeah, for sure. I know Picatinny Arsenal does so many awesome things for first teams. That's one of my favorite events that they do. But as someone who was on a team in their rookie year, I think what I love hearing that you guys are learning is, what do you want to do next season? How can I reach out to the rest of the FIRST community to learn? I think you guys are absolutely nailing it. That's something that is absolutely so important to creating a sustainable FIRST program.
So I just want to talk a little bit, since I am one of the few seniors that are in the club this year. And so going throughout the FIRST experience for this year has been a fun time that I've been enjoying and kind of helping to build this community around the school. Obviously, the quarantine stuff that's been going on has been kind of a bummer, making it so we're not able to get to the competition and not being able to have as thorough of time in the FIRST competition as we would like to. And so as a senior, it's kind of, there's a bit of a struggle there, but also I find happiness in just knowing that kind of I've helped to build the team and kind of get the team together and aiding in making sure that it can continue on for many more years to come.
It's amazing because even though we weren't able to compete this year, I feel like the knowledge and the experiences we've gained are priceless, and nothing can match up to that. Even though we couldn't get the pleasure of experiencing game on the field or having our seniors be able to drive or experience that competition atmosphere for the first time, I feel like all of us can agree that we've learned so much as rookies and we'll come back next year with a lot of experience.
Well, Team 8117, the Robo Rovers, we so appreciate your time tonight. We've loved getting to hear more about you, and we can't wait to support you in future seasons. If I want to learn more about your team, where can I find you guys?
You can follow us on Instagram at Easton Robotics, on Twitter at FRC8117, and on Facebook as EAHS FRC Team 8117. And we would like to thank our sponsors, Picatinny Arsenal, FIRST, Easton Foundation for Easton Schools, the Argosy Foundation, Beeler, TE Connectivity, Greater Easton Development Partnership, Comcast, Corvino and Worries, SCTE Foundation, St. Luke's, ExxonMobil, Lutron, City of Easton, Bebron, and Sheets for helping and supporting our team this year.
Well, thank you guys so much for your time tonight, and we hope that we see you very, very soon. Awesome job, Robo Rovers. I know I am inspired, and I know this season hasn't quite gone the way we all planned, but I cannot wait to see you at an event soon. Well, that's going to do it for our team lineup tonight on FMA Plus. We're so happy to feature all these different team stories, so thank you for submitting and being a part of the show. First Mid-Atlantic would like us to remind you that you can still submit for the Donald Bowers Inspiration Award. You can submit for the Donald Bowers Inspiration Award for every event your team was planning on attending this year. Please make sure your mentors take an eye on their email. The Donald Bowers Inspiration Award recognizes individuals who instill the values of FIRST within their team and their community, of course honoring Donald Bowers, who's been serving FIRST in our region since 1995. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Please stay tuned for our live post show. After we thank all of the wonderful people helping make FMA Plus happen, we'll see you in just a moment. Welcome to our live post show. We're here with Team 2458, Team Chaos. Welcome back. We're glad to have you here. Jeff, why don't you introduce me to our Q&A folks?
Yeah, absolutely. So tonight for Q&A, we have Juliet, Sarah, and Dylan, who are the team representatives from Team Chaos, and they're accompanied by their mentor, Haley. We've heard a little bit about their team earlier on in the segment, right? They were the first team leading off our lineup. So we're going to jump into some more detailed questions for you guys. And for everybody watching at home, remember to keep posting your questions in chat, as we'll be picking up more questions from the chat and from the Discord for the Q&A as we move through. So Libby, why don't you go ahead with the first question on the list?
Yeah, for sure. We definitely loved hearing your story and hearing a little bit about your team dynamic, and of course, getting to meet Jared the robot. So from the FMA Plus crew, we've heard some rumors of Jared merch. Any details you guys can share with us?
Yeah, so if you follow our Instagram at Team Chaos 2458, we actually posted a little teaser of some Jared merch that we designed. After speaking with you guys, we saw how excited you guys were about Jared, just as excited about him as we were. So we decided, let's make a t-shirt. We made 2 different t-shirt designs, and it's a possibility that we could be selling them soon. So if you're interested, you could definitely go check them out on our Instagram and let us know if you like it.
Yeah, I think it's so cool when a team has a component of an identity that just people can latch onto. Might as well do some fun stuff with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely going to put my name on the list for one of those shirts. Absolutely. So next one up on the list, we have also from the FMA Plus crew. From some of your pictures, it looks like you only had a single Neo on each side of your drivetrain. Was this a conscious decision made based on the fact that your robot was only 87 pounds? And how did a single motor on each side fare during matches in terms of the drive base?
So we actually did choose just one motor consciously. It was, yes, to conserve weight, and we also thought that with the torque specs of the Neo motor and the speed that it had, we didn't really need that second Neo on each side. And during competition, it seemed to be perfectly fine with our speed and our turning and everything. All the overall performance with the Neo motors was perfectly fine, actually. And we used those Neo motors with a Tough Box Mini, and that seemed to be fine.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, every team's got their own design decisions, and I think it's cool to hear a little bit more about why teams make those decisions. One of the other motor choice questions, I guess, is that you guys mentioned in your segment that you're using the new Johnson Electric PLG motor on your robot this year, and you mentioned having a failure with it, and not that the failure was the struggle, but that finding the part to help fix the failure was a little bit of an issue, since obviously it's different than most FRC motors. Would you consider using it again, or is there something you want to share with other teams about what led to that failure so that they can help avoid it?
Yeah, so the interesting thing about the Johnson Electric PLG motor is that it actually doesn't come with a shaft, or you can buy it with the shaft, but the shaft actually inserts into a female socket that is the output of the gearbox on that motor. And the interface between that female socket and the shaft has very small, it's almost like a spline, it's more like a gear shape. And those teeth shredded away pretty quickly if we put it under a lot of load. So that was the issue that we had, and we had to find a new shaft to replace it. But I would definitely still recommend it for lower load applications. It was very accurate, and it had a nice footprint. It was nice to work with, and it had everything that we needed except for that small little hiccup.
Yeah, I wonder too if if there's the value that you're describing in that motor. Maybe more teams will start to adopt it into their design process, and then more teams will have spares and supportive parts for other teams as failures tend to happen. So maybe it's just a matter of time before everybody's using that PLG motor. But next question for you guys. It says you guys chose to mount your shooter wheels so they contacted the sides of the ball. Obviously, this helped with your color wheel manipulation, which was awesome and a great combination of mechanisms or of game challenge achievement. But how did the wheel orientation impact your shooting? How did you guys avoid shooting curveballs?
I think that the way that we avoided shooting curveballs is just because the speed that we had the wheels flying at was just so high that the ball was just a direct line. And the main goal that we had was to ensure that we didn't lob the ball with a curve so that we weren't rainbowing.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. And one of our questions out of the chat tonight, you guys actually had some alumni show up and, give you guys a little bit of a shout out and a hello in chat. So this one comes specifically from a proud Team 2458 alum. How would Team Chaos describe its growth over the past few years? How has the team managed to grow successfully being in such a small school? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on sort of the evolution. I know we've noticed it too on the evolution of 2458.
So yeah, our team, I can't really speak much for past years because I'm new this year, but one thing that I do think is true is that we have kind of become a little bit more organized over the years, and I think that the way that they have recruited people has definitely become more out in the open. I can speak for being someone who's new. I thought it was really easy to kind of find this team. Because at the activity fair, I moved this year and I wanted to do robotics. So I found this team at the activity fair and, and they put posters all over with Haley's and contact info. So it was really easy to find this team. And in future years, I think we're going to continue to do that. And we're going to continue to try to get new members that way. And we also we let 8th graders on our team as well. So that's one way that we get younger people on our team. And yeah, I think that's just me speaking for like recruiting in terms of how this team is growing in size.
That, and we also doubled in size this year. So I think that was one of the biggest things that happened because we went from 11 to around 20 people this year. So I think that was a really large jump, and our team wasn't, well, I also was new this year, but I think the team was like really needing more people. And I think that because they did all this outreach, they were able to grow. So.
I think
that's awesome.
Growing that experience can be so hard, right? There's tons of teams who like you have an FRC program and it's always 20 people versus like you can put effort in and create this sort of like exponential growth almost in your community. And regardless of the actual team size growth, I think it's important to see the growth in what you're creating as far as a STEM program. So definitely props to you guys on some awesome improvements.
So I guess riffing a little bit here off of one of the chat questions that came from, I believe, one of your own team members, but I think it's a good point to bring up, and it's worth a little bit of conversation as we close out the segment tonight. You guys are a veteran team. So what kind of advice do you have for smaller teams, teams that have a smaller headcount in terms of students and maybe mentorship, similar to your situation, to grow and spread outreach? How do you guys account, or how do you overcome the challenges of a smaller student base to still cast a wide net in terms of community outreach and community integration?
I think that our school is really small as well, and our team itself is the biggest team at our school, including all the sports and everything. So I think just by being able to tell your friends and ensure that you're just reaching out constantly and trying to get more people, it just makes sure that you don't lose hope in yourselves. Like it's important that you're sticking with it, because no matter what, like, this is something that you care about, and I think it's important that you stick with it.
Absolutely. Yeah. How have
Quality
you
advice.
guys been faring in terms of the quarantine and stuff? Are you guys losing steam? Are you brainstorming new ideas and new projects? How are the team chaos spirits right now as we're in this weird phase?
We definitely keep in touch over, we've had a few Zoom calls with each other, and there's definitely teammates that are doing kind of off season. There's definitely been a lot of ideas for how we were going to approach next year, and we've had a lot of goals for the next year. So yeah, that's what I have to say.
And another thing is that a few of our programmers this year have actually decided to look into designing our own scouting app, as well as continuing work on the chaos dashboard that was shown off earlier. So that's another thing that we're looking into, as well as we really need to work on our sponsorship program. That's something we've really lacked in the past years. And this year we really worked on trying to develop that, and we continue to work on that moving forwards.
I was going to say, when we interview the teams, we're not always looking super far into their media until we come down to an editing perspective. And when I saw the dashboard, we'd heard you guys describe it when we filmed, and I was like, this is the coolest. So if that team is working on more stuff, that is awesome, and I can't wait to check it out. We'll make sure that we keep an eye on you on social and online to make sure we can follow up on all of the awesome your programming team seems to be creating as well.
Yeah, I might also add one last thing. You may have already thought of this, but if you guys are continuing to pursue the chaos dashboard, which, like Libby said, it's an incredible project, and it's already shown to be super impressive in its younger phases. But if you guys do continue to work on that, I would also develop a way to present this to a pit judge in a way that you can demonstrate its capabilities, and also the incredible presentation of its capabilities, right? So it's not just that it does all these great things, but it's so cool the way you guys present how it does it on the screen. And I think if you guys can fine tune that presentation, I think an innovation and control award is like a slam dunk for you guys, which would be awesome. So little food for thought there.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for our chat questions. So thank you to 2458. Thank you to Juliet, Sarah, and Dylan, and mentor Haley for your time tonight. And to everybody else, and to 2458 as well. Don't forget to submit for the Donald Bowers Inspiration Award. The deadline is May 15th. And you can submit one submission for every event that your team was planning to attend, right? So everybody can submit at least two if you're planning to attend two districts, right? So don't forget about that.
Absolutely. Make sure you get those submissions in to honor someone in our community doing some awesome for First Mid-Atlantic. So, of course, a huge thank you to our entire FMA Plus crew for making this happen. We could not have done this without the whole group screening, interviewing, and editing down the team features, as well as moderating chat, coordinating social media, and keeping you informed.
Absolutely. We'll see everybody next Saturday for an awesome episode of FMA Plus. Everybody have a great night.
Oh, I'm muted. I thought you were like